still has less HP than the original. Okay, this is so so dumb. Has And looking at the comments, someone commented question mark 1,000 question marks and dude dot dot dot. Like it's so bad. I don't understand. Has 140 HP and instead of 150, still has a four, oh god, I'm sorry. Has a 4 energy requirement attack to only do 100, which is better than the other one. But then puts itself asleep. Oh my god. What's up, cooks? Welcome to the Card Kitchen. I am the Card Chef, and today we are reviewing all of the Triumphant Light set spoilers. There is a bunch of them. I'm sure you've seen them all as much as I have on other people posting about it, but I obviously have to do this. We're going to talk about them, and I'm going to give my opinion on the current leaks we have. We have to remember that these aren't the only cards in this set, so I'm sure that there are more to come out. And I'm hoping I get a better reaction from myself than I did when I first saw these spoilers. Because I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not super duper excited about this. Not as excited as I was about all the other sets that dropped. And all the other spoilers that we've seen from other sets. Let me start with my my cons, okay? Because there's a lot that I'm kind of like a little bit annoyed about, and then we'll get into each card. And I've also I've kind of calmed down a bit, if I'm being honest. Let's be honest. I've calmed down a bit because I've started theory crafting in my head. I'm actually gonna have a whole theory crafting video coming out right after this. Gonna literally post probably within the next 30 minutes after this video, next an hour after this video, but. Basically, the reason why I was kind of upset when all these leaks dropped is for a couple of reasons. One, it's as much as I like to see Arceus, okay, and Arceus EX, I'm not so excited that like a lot of cards have to do with Arceus. Just on this screen alone, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 different cards that interact directly with Arceus. So yes, there's a lot of deck building options, but in regards to Arceus EX, it kind of takes away like a bit of the creativity from deck building, and so I don't feel like we're actually getting as much as we would like. This doesn't mean you have to play Arceus with these cards. In fact, if I'm being honest, depending on the rest of the cards that come out, Arceus might go into decks, like meta decks that are already being played, but he might just go into decks without the cards that kind of work with him. We're going to get into all the cards, don't worry. But there's basically the Carnivine, the Tyranitar, the Heatran, the Rotom, the Magnezone, the Raichu, the Abomasnow, and the Crobat all have a link ability that has Arceus or Arceus EX's name in it. So we do know we're getting an Arceus as well as the Arceus EX. But it's kind of like, it almost feels like a bit boring is maybe a better way to put it. But not just that, there are a lot of cards I find in this set that we've currently leaked that have a lot of the same style of ability or effect. For instance, we'll just start clicking on some of them right now. Tyranitar, okay. How can I zoom in here a little bit? Yes, I can just do this. So his ability, Power Link, if you have Arceus or Arceus X in play, attacks used by this Pokemon do 30 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. That's additional damage, of course, but then we also have the Crobat that can do additional damage, feels very much like a Greninja. And then we have the Glaceon, which of course does extra damage during checkup. So they are different. So this I'm not so annoyed about, but what I am kind of annoyed about, and I don't want to sound so negative because I actually am. I eventually kind of convinced myself that I actually am kind of excited because I started theory crafting and I started theory crafting a whole bunch of decks. But for instance, Raichu, there's so many Pokemon that take a certain amount of less damage in these leaks alone. It's kind of like, not only is the deck building on our side when we're building decks going to be less creative, but it almost seems like they were less creative as well when creating effects and abilities for cards. Raichu, take 30 less damage from attacks. Magnezone, take 30 less damage from attacks. Of course, Arceus has to be on the field, but still, regardless, take 30 less damage, right? And then Probopass. During your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon takes this Pokemon takes 20 less damage. There are so many cards like this that are currently in just this set alone that take less damage. And it's like we already have a bunch of cards like that. We have Melmetal, we have Golem, we have I forget who else. I think Mamoswine and stuff like that. Like there's already so many cards that do that. It's such like they're not very creative abilities and effects, and multiple Pokemon in the same set in the tiny a bit of leaks that we saw all have very similar effects or abilities, and so that's like it's super uncreative, super uninspired, and it's kind of like it feels very off. And then we have cards that seem completely useless. We have Giratina, completely useless. I'll get into it a bit more. And then Snorlax, again, another Snorlax. It's a completely different Snorlax, but again, seems very much useless. But again, I'm hoping certain cards that come out that we haven't seen yet in order to make some of these cards a little bit better. And then we also have a Staraptor here who also takes 30 less damage from all Pokemon. This Pokemon takes 30 damage from attacks from certain type of Pokemon, I guess. I don't know. But either way, it's again another Pokemon with the exact same effect or ability as all the other ones that are already in this set and other cards that we already have in the game. It's super like uncreative and super duper frustrating. But again, I could be wrong. I still am very excited, but I felt like I needed to get the cons out of the way before I get into the pros. But we can go through each card here. Arceus. Arceus is probably one of the cards. I don't think this is going to be meta relevant, if I'm being completely honest, at least not on its own. And I don't even think, I think if it's put into a deck and it's the deck is a meta deck, like say like top 5, I don't think it's going to be because of Arceus personally. Like I don't think it's going to be an Arceus deck. It'll probably be put into a deck that already has a certain shell in there, maybe a water type or something like that. Or I'm going to get into theory crafting in my next video, but Fabled Luster is like completely irrelevant. This Pokemon can't be affected by any special conditions. Like nobody's using special conditions at all in any way, shape, or form in any meta deck really that's relevant, to be honest. This attack does 20 more damage for each Pokemon you have on your bench. So 70 plus 60 if it's full is 130. Not bad. 3 energy, not bad. It's colorless. It can be ramped on with Manaphy, Dialga. It could be yeah, that's it. Pretty much those 2 cards. But so like that, or it could just be put in a deck without a ramper. But it could also work with Dawn and stuff like that. So there are ways to get this online quicker than usual. And I think honestly my first thought that this card goes into a Manaphy deck because Manaphy can ramp onto it. Manaphy wants to play a ton of basics in the deck anyways, kind of similar to Pikachu, so you can get that bench filled up. I have an actual different theory crafting deck with dark Pokemon, and I'll get into that in my next video. But I feel like this is completely underpowered. Like compared to Dialga and Palkia, I feel like this is super duper underpowered. I could be way off on that. You guys can let me know. But then the next Pokemon is Carnivine. I think this is probably one of the better cards in the set. If you have Arceus or RCCX in play, attacks used by this Pokemon do 30 more damage. 1 energy for 50 damage, basically. Super duper good. It's going to be super duper relevant in today's meta if it doesn't change too much, because Executor EX has Execute, who evolves into it, and it has 50 HP, and Executor decks are the best decks in the game right now, and they're super hard to get around, which is why Skarmory is so well, because it can do 50 damage pretty much right off the rip if it has a tool card attached to it. So I do think if there's any meta relevant deck with Arceus and it's an Arceus build, it will have Carnivine in it. There might also be a Heatran build. I'll get into this one next because it's fire, and Executor and Grass decks are weak to fire, obviously. If Arceus or RCCX is in play, this Pokemon has no retreat cost. Pretty decent. 2 fire energy does 40. If the Pokemon already has damage on it, it does 40 more. So not too bad. 80 for a basic Pokemon with 2 energies. Pretty good. And 40 plus 20 for weakness knocks out an Execute as well. And then I think if you do 60 and then 80 plus 20 is 10, 160 over 2 turns, you're knocking out an Executor as well, as long as it doesn't heal. You're definitely knocking out a Celebi, so it's not bad. I can see this in an Arceus build as well to maybe get around those big, massive grass decks right now. And then we have Tyranitar. This card I'm super duper disappointed in. I was so excited about Tyranitar, but if Arceus or Arceus EX is in play, attacks used by this Pokemon do 30 plus damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So basically it does 130 for 4 energy, with 30 more if Arceus is on the field, which it most likely will be. It does 160. If, for whatever reason, you're also playing Lucario, that's 180. So you can one-shot basically almost any single Pokemon in the game. The issue is it's a stage 2 that has to get 4 energy, 3 of which have to be fighting. So you can't ramp with Dialga. It's not worth ramping with Manaphy, that 1 water energy for the 1 colorless requirement. So, and it has a 4 retreat cost. So how are we ever getting this online? We basically can't even do that very much. It's already hard to do with Rhyperior. So how are we ever going to make this work? It kind of makes no sense. As strong as it is, it's never worth going to be playing this card, especially when you can just play a Charizard deck and get 5 energy on it way quicker with Moltres and do 200 damage instead of a 180 conditional with Lucario and Arceus. So again, I just don't think, unless we get some other cards that we just don't know about, I think this card's completely useless. And that's kind of one of the frustrating things too, is I feel why do we keep making cards like this? For energy requirement, that's super hard to get on a stage 2 with 4 retreat. This card, you open it. If it's a real pack, you open it, you throw it in the garbage. That's exactly what you do. Rotom, this is one of those cards which I kind of just don't understand, to be honest. If Arceus EX and Arceus is on the field, this Pokemon has no retreat cost. Do we really care on a 1 retreat cost Pokemon anyways? This is what I mean. Where's the creativity? Why? Is it meant to be in a deck with Heatran because it has colorless requirement, so you can play just fire energies? That's one of the decks that I was trying to think about, is Heatran, Rotom, and Arceus. But is it really worth it? This attack does 20 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Yeah, it's good, but it's not Himoli level, right? Himoli is doing 30. This is only doing 20. So I don't know. I just it seems bizarre. Himoli also has more HP, so this just seemed like a useless ability and a useless attack as well. Wouldn't you rather just play the Spiritomb and then get multiple Pokemon damage with 10 damage for 1 energy? That's for a colorless requirement. I'm not sure. And then we have Magnezone. This one I don't think is going to be played at all, unless it's in a very specific type of let's stay on the field as long as possible, because this card, Melmetal as well as Probopass, all take less damage and they're all steel. And then you have a new trainer card that increases the amount of damage that you're less likely to take for metal Pokemon. So there is that. But again, why wouldn't we just be playing the Electric Magnezone like we always have? We can also just play the Electric Magneton in this deck, get a bunch of energy on it, ramp to other Pokemon those extra electric energy you might have with Dawn, or even in an electric deck to get with Lieutenant Surge. I don't know. So this, again, I don't think it's going to do that much. And again, it feels very uninspired. Third Raichu, if Arceus is in play, this takes 30 less damage from attacks. Again, I'm not so sure how great this is. 90 HP is already very low. You take 30 less damage. If this is up against, I don't know, I'm going to keep using Executor EX as an example. Let's say you hit for 80, it takes 30 less, so it takes 50, goes down to 40, and then it just gets knocked out on the next turn anyways. I don't know, 90 damage and 30 less is I don't know. I would have to do more math, but again, it's one of those cards that seems like it's probably not supposed to be filler, but it feels like a filler card, and it feels like it's not going to be played very often. And I feel like the other Raichus are still just better. Abomasnow, this one's pretty interesting actually. If you have Arceus on your in play, this attack, used by this Pokemon cost 1 less colorless energy, which means basically it's 2 water for 80 damage on a stage 1. If you compare this to something like its Starmie EX is 90 for 2. And I'm pretty sure it won't be that hard to get Arceus out on the board, to be completely honest. We don't know what the Arceus does yet. We know what the Arceus EX does, but getting either one of them onto the board is probably not that hard, as long as you build the deck correctly. And even then, by the time you evolve it and get the 2 energy on it, you're probably going to get it anyways, right? So it's pretty good, actually. 120 HP, 80 damage for 2 energy. It's basically like a baby Starmie, so it's actually not that bad. I actually don't mind this that much. And if you're playing this in an Arceus build, which of course you would be, and you would only be playing water energy, so you can use the new Irina card, or Idina card, I forget what it's called, but we'll get into that after. It basically heals water Pokemon, so I could see this being played, to be completely honest. And then Crobat, this one's pretty good. Once during, actually it's really good. Once during your turn, if Arceus is in play, of course, you do 30 damage to one of your opponent's active, to your opponent's active Pokemon. So 30 damage, that's already bigger than what Darkrai does. It's already bigger than what Greninja does, but it's kind of combined the 2 effects together, because you can, I'm guessing it's a click one, you click the ability like Greninja, but you can only hit the active. So it's not as strong as Greninja, I don't think, because you can't hit any Pokemon you want. So the cool thing about Greninja is you can choose which one you do, and because of that, you can get certain knockouts. You can sometimes get 2 knockouts in a turn, allowing you to get a ton of prize points in one turn with Darkrai and Greninja and stuff like that. So does this replace any of those cards? I don't think so. And again, I'm not really 100% sure if this becomes meta relevant, because again, I'm still not sure which Arceus deck, if any, become as an Arceus build become meta. But with that being said, this plus Arceus attacking for 130 is 160 to the active, so that's pretty good for 3 energy. Let's be honest, it's actually really good. But you also have to get into the stage 2, so there's that too. But if you play this, if you play Darkrai, Crobat, and Arceus all in the same deck, you're going to be able to do a ton of damage. You're going to be able to put damage with your Darkrai, don the energy onto your Arceus if you need to, and then Crobat, and you basically Crobat Darkrai all in one turn. With Arceus is actually 180, so that actually might be a pretty good deck. But again, you have to get everything online and going in order to make those combos go off. So that was it for the Arceus cards. Now we have 2 evolutions. This one's pretty good. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your active spot, you may take a grass energy from your energy zone and attach it to one of your grass Pokemon, which means you can actually attach it to itself, because it doesn't say the grass Pokemon has to be on the bench to attach it to it, which means basically you can attach to yourself. And then also, if you get 2 Leafeon in the same turn evolved, you can actually load this all up in one turn. So you go turn 1, you go first, you go into your second turn, which is turn 3, you evolve 2 Leafeons, use both their abilities, and they both you would have to retreat one, but it's still possible. You can basically put 3 energy in one turn. If you play this with something like a Celebi, it's going to be super strong. You're going to be able to get a ton of energy on Celebi. It also has 140 HP, which is obviously less than Executor, but this might just replace Executor, because it kind of combines the old version of Superior with Celebi and the new version of Executor and Celebi, kind of combines them together just by playing Leafeon. Not only can you tank and do a ton of interesting stuff at the beginning of the game with Leafeon, but you can also fill up a Celebi with a lot more energy than you otherwise would. So therefore the Executor is no longer needed, and therefore no longer is the superior. But time will tell with Leafeon, because Leafeon's not really doing a lot of damage at the beginning of the game, and it might take a lot longer. Whereas like Executor, like it's not just because it's like a big body that can tank while you build up energy slowly on Celebi. It's because it's actually doing a minimum of 40 each turn for one energy, potentially 80 each turn with one energy. So time will tell how this looks in the meta. And then we got Glaceon. I'm not so sure I'm excited about this, to be honest. I can't decide on whether I like it or not. During your opponent's checkup, so basically checkup is at the end of the turn, where it's like you're supposed to be checking for like coin flips for things like burn or sleep. If this Pokemon is in your active spot, do 10 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So during Pokemon checkup. So basically at the end of every single person's turn. So it does, for 3 energy, does 90 damage, freeze and wind. There's no special effect for the attack. It just does 90. But because of checkup, you're doing actually a minimum of 100, potentially 110, I believe. Because I can't remember if checkup is at the beginning or at the end, or both. I would have to read into it a little bit more, but either way, I think it's minimum 100 up to 110 if your opponent doesn't have to retreat. But I think checkup, I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure checkup's at the end of your turn, but it could be at the beginning of your turn. But either way, so like 3 energy, 100 damage, not great, but it could compile. You can probably get this online pretty quickly with Manaphy. You can put it in an Evolutions deck with the new Vaporeon to make it worth trying to get a ton of energy out. So you have Manaphy, Vaporeon, Glaceon, Misty, the new water type water trainer that, or supporter, that heals 40 damage to each of your water Pokemon, or each Pokemon that has water energy attached to it. So this might be good. I'm honestly not sure. I don't think so, to be honest. And the only real way you can build like an Evolutions deck is if, and I theorized this in one of my previous videos, you can go check it out. It's top cards, abilities, and effects that I want to see in the game. And I talked about how in the paper TCG there's an EV, basically an EVEX on top of an EV, which means you can play either EV or EVEX in your deck, which means in Pokemon Pocket you would be able to play 2 of each. So that's basically like playing 4 EVs, and both of them can evolve into Glaceon or Glaceon EX. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they can just evolve into an evolution, right? So that would be cool. I'm hoping we actually get that in this set. I don't know if we will anymore. I feel like it would have been revealed by now. But I think Evolutions decks are honestly off the table. This would probably have to be put in a deck with just Glaceon, no Vaporeon at all, which is kind of sad, to be honest. All right, we're going to go through the rest pretty quickly here. Garchomp EX. This doesn't work with Cynthia, number 1. Number 2, it does work with Lucario, though, so it is going to get a boost from Lucario. 50 damage for 1 energy linear attack to any of your opponent's Pokemon. Not too bad, but again, it's also a stage 2, so you're only doing that once, like at turn 5, turn 6, or something like that, right? By the time you get into it. And the 50 damage to 1 of your opponent's Pokemon, I think Lucario only increases damage to the active, so you wouldn't be able to, if you hit the bench, you're not getting the additional damage from Lucario. And this is also weak to grass. Grass is super duper strong, whereas the other Garchomp has no weakness at all because it's a dragon type. So I'm not sure what I think about this, to be completely honest, because like the max you can do is like 150. 2 Lucario have to be on field, and a Giovanni has to be played on the turn you're attacking. Which is a way bigger requirement, in my opinion, than just playing a Cynthia with this single prize dragon type version of this card. So I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to have to either test it myself or see other people test it before I get an opinion on Garchomp. I'm not very excited, though, if I'm being honest. And then Probopass, 160 HP. During your opponent's next turn, it's 3 energy requirement, 2 or steel, does 90 damage. It takes 20 less damage from attacks. I don't think this is going to be played, if I'm being completely honest. First of all, it's a stage 1. It's not even a basic. Only has 160 HP. It's not terrible, but I mean, does it feel as good as an Executor does? Not at all. It has the same HP, has a way higher energy requirement to do 90 damage instead of doing potentially between 40 or 80 with 1 energy on an Executor. And yes, it takes less damage, but does that damage intake make up the difference where when you can just heal something like an Executor EX with your Ericas and stuff like that? And so, and then not only that, but to get this online quicker, and it's not even really quicker if you think about it, you have to load up a Dialga with 2 energy and then start ramping. So it's actually the same amount of turns. At least you get 2 Pokemon close to being set up by playing it in a Dialga build, but this takes way too long to get set up, to be completely honest. Like, I don't think, again, and this is one of the reasons why I was like so kind of like whatever about this reveal of this set, because a lot of these are super duper underwhelming, if I'm being honest. And people may disagree, but I'm not super duper excited about this set. Shaman, however, is one of my favorite cards that has been revealed. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, your active Pokemon, your active basic Pokemon's retreat cost is 1 less. So the first thing I thought about, and then I completely changed my mind, was Pikachu, Pikachu Pachirisu, because if those have free retreat, basically, you can constantly go back and forth without having to use X speeds. But then I remembered, like, Shaman's a colorless, so he wouldn't go into a Pikachu deck anyways. And then I thought about Leafeon, the one from Space Time Smackdown, getting free retreat and then being able to attack again. But that's a stage 1. So I'm trying to think of like which like deck does this go in. It would have to be super duper basic heavy Pokemon. And I'm just not sure what that is. Is it 18 trainer and you make it 17 trainer because you throw this guy in there? I'm trying to think of like what decks are playing all basics right now, and I don't think there's really any. And I'm having a hard time thinking, like, I don't think it would be that great in Arceus. I think Arceus is 1 or 2 or 3. Arceus is 2, so it would be a 1 retreat cost. But then again, like, I don't know. It depends, right? But then we have Giratina here. This card's completely useless. I hope we get a Giratina EX, because this is just way worse than the one we currently have that's Psychic type. And Psychic type version is actually... Psychic types are really bad in the meta right now because there's so much Dark. But this card's actually even worse than something that you don't play, that you're not going to play anyways. Like, that's how bad this card is. Discard 2 random energy from this Pokemon. And it requires 3 energy already, and 2 of them are different energy. And it only does 120 damage. And there's no way to ramp any of these energies on to this Pokemon. Gardevoir does not ramp onto something that's not Psychic, so you can't get the Psychic from Gardevoir. Leafeon cannot, and Lilligant cannot ramp onto Giratina because they're not Grass types. And Superior doesn't increase the 1 Leaf type energy on this card to 2 to require for the 3rd energy, which is colorless, right? Because again, it's not Grass. So this card is so bad. So bad. The only card that I think is probably worse than that is this new Snorlax, which still has less HP than the original. Okay, this is so dumb. And looking at the comments, someone commented question mark 1,000 question marks and dude ... Like, it's so bad. I don't understand. It has 140 HP and instead of 150, still has a oh god, sorry. Has a 4 energy requirement attack to only do 100, which is better than the other one, but then puts itself asleep. Oh my god. And then has a 4 energy requirement retreat cost still, so I don't understand. Like, even with Shaman, this still has only 3 retreat costs and puts itself to sleep. So there has to be something else in this set that allows you to, like, do something while you're asleep, or otherwise, why would you do it? This Pokemon is now asleep. Like, it makes no sense. But anyways, I thought that was, yeah. And then there's a couple of other cards. We already kind of talked about the Staraptor here because we talked about how it takes 30 less damage from attacks, which is automatic. It's an ability, right? There's no special condition. Arceus doesn't have to be on the board, but it says from a specific, like, if you look at it here, like, there's like a symbol. It's most likely like a specific type of Pokemon. We don't know which one that is, and I'm not sure. I'm guessing it's electric, maybe. I don't know. But even then, like, sure, we're taking. So now basically it gets hit for. It takes 20 less if it's electric, let's say. It takes 10 less because it still gets plus 20 for the weakness. And then wing attack 3 for 90 on a stage 2 is like so bad. I don't understand why we would ever do this. Especially since his ability doesn't make up for the weak attack. Whereas something like a Pidgeot, baby Pidgeot from Genetic Apex, it's 2 energy for 70, which is way better. And even if it's a low attack for a stage 2 with 2 energy requirement, the ability makes up for it, kind of. You know what I mean? Especially if you're playing it in a deck that wants to do that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. The other Star Raptor that we got is actually not that great either. I've tested it; it wasn't that great. And this one's probably not going to be. This one's probably going to be even worse, if I'm being completely honest. And then we saw. Oh yeah, we want to get into the trainer cards. We haven't talked about those. Irida, that's the name. Heal 40 damage from each of your Pokemon that has a water energy attached to it. This card, I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks this. This card is legit broken. This, if you have 4 Pokemon with energy on them, which is not hard to do because you have Manaphy and Misty and Vaporeon to move those energies around, you're basically using 4 Ericas in the same turn on 4 different Pokemon. This seems so insanely broken to me that I'm not even sure how this got past creative without somebody going, what are we doing? Super duper broken. It makes no sense to me, but I guarantee water decks are about to get a lot better than they already are. I think the Palkia Vaporeon deck is already super strong. I think if that deck changes, it doesn't matter if it's Palkia or maybe an Arceus, because I think Arceus might replace Palkia, if I'm being completely honest. And it doesn't even have to be a water Pokemon. It's just a Pokemon with water energy, which is like super insane. Like, that's crazy. Like, this is actually broken, in my opinion. And then Adaman. During your opponent's next turn, all of your Steel-type Pokemon take 20 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. So again, another card that has to do with taking less damage. At least this one is specific to Steel-type, and every Steel-type we've seen, the Magnezone and the Probopass, have a similar effect in their ability or their attack. And then we already have the Melmetal that has the same ability as well. Taking, I think it's 20 less from attacks already. So that makes sense, right? Because we're going to build, I guess, some type of steel deck with cards that do that and finding out which ones are the best ones. Or maybe we just put this in a Bastiodon deck. Maybe Bastiodon gets like way better than it already is, because Bastiodon's like already pretty decent. I think people probably have figured out how to beat it and have just decided it's not worth trying to win with the Bastiodon deck. Maybe this helps it even more. Maybe it's not even needed in a Bastion deck. Maybe other steel type decks start to feel like a Bastion deck because we take such less damage, and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? But then why are we also putting this effect on things like Staraptor and Raichu and all the other Pokemon that already have it? Like, I'm so sick and tired of this take less damage ability or effect being used on everything. It's so uncreative, so uninspired. It's so underwhelming to constantly see that. And so many cards in the same set do the same thing that it's like, can you not have thought of something different, like, at all? There's so many effects and abilities in the paper TCG that you can take inspiration from, and this is what we're doing on every single card. It's kind of weird. But anyways, I think that's it for everything I wanted to look at. I don't think there was anything else on this set that was worth talking about. I don't know if anybody saw this one yet. It's unknown, apparently. We're getting an unknown card. Ability, it says called Check. Once during your turn, you may choose either player. Look at the top card of that player's deck. Basically, a way better Porygon. Porygon was already being used in a lot of like cooked up builds of Psychic decks, so that you can use Mythical Slab without any worry, because basically you put Porygon on your bench. You use his ability to look at the top card. If it's a Psychic Pokemon, then you can use Mythical Slab. If it's not, then you don't use Mythical Slab. This is a Psychic Pokemon, which not only can it be searched with Mythical Slab, but can be used with Mythical Slab to search another Psychic Pokemon. So I actually love this card, and I love it for Psychic types. Unfortunately, Psychic types still won't be as good, because even with the Porygon, even if it was a Psychic type, its Psychic type decks would not be doing good right now, because there's too much Dark, and Dark is too strong right now. But anyways, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and share. Hit the notification bell, as I do post videos daily. Join my Discord and my Twitter. I will be doing live streams, and my schedule for streaming is on my Discord. I will be slowly streaming on Twitch now, and not both Twitch and YouTube, just going to Twitch. So thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, keep cooking.